The war was finally over, and the galaxy was holding its breath. After years of endless destruction, the humans had done what no one believed possible. They had survived, and not only survived, they had won. The alien empires, once so proud and ancient, now gathered on the gleaming crystal floors of the Grand Hall of Concord, their banners dim under the harsh white light. Every species had lost something, but none had lost more than humanity. Still, the humans stood tall, scarred and weary, but unbroken. At the center of the hall stood Commander Rylan Voss, the youngest war hero humanity had ever produced. He was tall, his black uniform polished, his expression unreadable, his eyes carrying the calm of someone who had seen the worst of death and still walked through it. Beside him, other human officers waited as alien envoys presented symbols of peace, prizes meant to honor the victors. For most warriors, these gifts were ceremonial companions, chosen from alien noble houses, a tradition to seal treaties after war. To others, they were trophies, meant to display power and dominance. When Rylan's turn came, the hall grew quiet. Hundreds of alien eyes focused on him, expecting he would take the most beautiful, the most powerful, or the most influential of the alien princesses standing in line. Each one was dressed in shimmering robes, their faces proud, their gazes cold. They all whispered to each other as Rylan's boots echoed across the floor. But then, his steps stopped before someone no one expected. She stood slightly apart from the rest, her silver robes plain, her gaze lowered, her aura soft and fragile. Her name was Princess Kayla, the youngest daughter of the Zyrian royal house. She was the one the galaxy called the Outcast. Born with strange blue eyes and a quiet, withdrawn nature, she had never spoken in public. Rumors said she could sense emotions instead of words. Others claimed she was defective, a royal disappointment, a mistake hidden in plain sight, the crowd murmured as Rylan approached her. The alien lords sneered, their voices dripping with disbelief. "The human must be mocking us," someone hissed. "He cannot be serious," said another. But Rylan didn't hear them, or perhaps he didn't care. He stopped right in front of Kayla, looked into her glowing eyes, and spoke calmly. "I choose her," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. Even Kayla herself looked up in shock. She blinked slowly, her lips parting as if she didn't understand what had just happened. For a moment, the galaxy seemed to freeze. Then laughter began, cold, cruel, and echoing. The alien nobles laughed because they thought it was a joke. The human officers whispered because they feared what it meant. And Kayla stood trembling, unable to meet his eyes again. The Grand Chancellor, a tall insectoid creature with golden armor, stepped forward in disbelief. "Commander," he said, his voice sharp, "you may choose any of our finest heirs. Why take this one?" Rylan turned to face him, his expression calm. "Because," he said, "in war, I learned that what the galaxy throws away often turns out to be what it needed most." A ripple of shock spread through the hall. Some called it arrogance, others called it madness, but Rylan simply extended his hand toward Kayla. Slowly, hesitantly, she took it, and the entire hall erupted in noise, outrage, disbelief, confusion. As they walked out together, human soldiers and alien envoys alike stared in silence. Some saw bravery, others saw humiliation. To the galaxy, it was an act of rebellion. To Rylan, it was something else, a promise he couldn't yet explain. Outside the hall, Kayla finally spoke for the first time, her voice soft and trembling. "Why did you choose me?" she asked, her words barely above a whisper. Rylan looked ahead, his eyes focused on the horizon where Earth's flag hung among the stars. "Because everyone else chose what they were told to," he said. "And I choose what feels right." Kayla said nothing, but her eyes shimmered faintly. In that quiet moment, something shifted, an invisible bond, fragile yet unbreakable, began to form between them. Back inside the Grand Hall, alien diplomats argued and shouted. "How dare a human take her?" one cried. "He insults the council," said another. But in the shadows, a tall figure watched the scene in silence. Kayla's elder sister, Princess Velra. Her golden armor gleamed as her sharp eyes followed her sister leaving with the human. "She will regret this," Velra murmured to herself, "and so will he." Her words were not a threat but a prophecy, for in that single moment, the fate of two species began to twist together, and the galaxy, still celebrating its fragile peace, had no idea that a new kind of war was already beginning, not one fought with weapons but with hearts, loyalty, and choices that would echo for generations. Rylan and Kayla walked into the unknown, their footsteps fading into the hum of distant engines. Around them, the galaxy turned, blind to the storm that was about to rise again, because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, a choice to see worth where others see weakness, is enough to shake empires. And that was exactly what the human soldier had just done. The journey back to the human warship Resolute was silent. Kayla followed Rylan through the docking bridge, her bare feet whispering against the steel floor. Her silver robe caught the dim blue light, making her look like a ghost drifting between worlds. Every soldier they passed stopped and stared, not sure if they should salute or whisper. No one had ever seen a human officer bring an alien princess aboard a military vessel before. Especially her, the silent one, the outcast of the Zyrian royal line. Rylan didn't look back, but he could feel her hesitation. He knew the way people saw her. A strange alien mistake who didn't belong anywhere. But he also knew what he saw when she lifted her eyes for that brief moment in the hall. He saw intelligence, fear, and something deeper. A spark of understanding he couldn't name. When the airlock closed behind them, Kayla flinched at the sound. The human crew stood in formation, their faces blank, waiting for orders. Rylan raised a hand, his voice calm. "This is Princess Kayla of Zyrea," he said. "She will be treated as a guest of honor." The crew exchanged uncertain looks. One officer, Lieutenant Harris, spoke under his breath. "A guest, sir? Or a hostage?" Rylan's gaze turned sharp and Harris instantly saluted. "There are no hostages on this ship," Rylan said, his voice low but firm. Kayla's eyes glowed faintly blue as she watched the exchange. She could feel the crew's emotions. A storm of suspicion, curiosity, and quiet fear. It overwhelmed her senses and she pressed a hand against her temple. Rylan noticed and slowed his pace. "Too much noise?" he asked softly. Kayla nodded once, unable to form words. He led her to a small observation cabin, its window opening to the endless stars. "Rest here," he said gently. "No one will disturb you." Then he turned to leave. But she spoke, her voice trembling. "Why do you not hate me?" Rylan paused at the door. He didn't turn around. But his reply came slowly. "Because hate is easy," he said. "And I've had enough of easy things." He left her in the quiet, his footsteps fading into the hum of the ship. Kayla stood by the window, staring into the void. The stars pulsed like living hearts, their light filling her mind with whispers. Back on Zyrea, she had been called broken because she could hear these whispers, the emotional echoes of living minds. Her people feared what they couldn't control. But now, among humans, that strange ability began to feel like a gift. She could sense Rylan's presence even far down the corridor, his steady calm like an anchor. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel completely alone. Hours later, she found herself wandering through the Resolute's medical bay. The humans there were different. Loud, warm, unafraid to argue. A young engineer accidentally dropped a metal tray and cursed under his breath. When he noticed her, he froze, unsure what to do. Kayla simply picked up the tray and handed it to him. The man stammered, "Thank you, ma'am." Kayla smiled faintly, a small, almost invisible gesture, but it spread through the room like sunlight. Word of her kindness spread quickly through the ship. Some still whispered that she was dangerous, but others began to see her differently. Rylan observed quietly from a distance, his arms crossed. He could see the change, not just in her, but in his crew. Humans feared what they didn't understand. But they also learned fast, and Kayla, with her soft voice and quiet presence, was teaching them something no weapon ever could: empathy. One night, as the ship drifted through a quiet sector of space, Rylan found Kayla in the observation deck. She stood there again, her hand pressed to the glass, eyes glowing with starlight. "You don't sleep much, do you?" he asked, stepping beside her. She shook her head slowly. "The stars speak," she whispered. "They carry memories, pain, and hope." "I hear them." Rylan smiled faintly. "You sound like an old soldier." Kayla turned to him. "Confused old soldiers," he said, "hear ghosts too." For a moment, there was only silence. Then Kayla asked softly, "Do your people fear you too?" Rylan looked at the endless dark, his jaw tightening. "Sometimes," he said. "But that's all right. Fear just means they don't understand you yet." She looked at him long, her gaze searching. "Then perhaps," she whispered, "we are the same." Their eyes met, and the air seemed to hum between them. No words, no promises, just an unspoken connection. Fragile, but real. In the following days, Rylan began to notice subtle changes in the ship's systems. Energy readings fluctuated near Kayla's quarters, communication lines distorted, and strange frequency pulses appeared. It was as if the ship itself was reacting to her presence. But before he could investigate further, an urgent call came from the bridge, a transmission, encrypted, alien, and coming directly from the Zerian High Command. They were demanding Kayla's return immediately, and their message ended with a warning. If you do not comply, Commander, the galaxy will no longer forgive humanity. Rylan stared at the message, his expression unreadable. He turned to the stars outside and murmured to himself, "Let them try." Because deep down he already knew. This was no longer about politics or peace treaties. This was about something the galaxy had forgotten how to understand: compassion. And as the Resolute sailed into the cold dark, Kayla felt the tremor of coming danger. Her glowing eyes reflected the stars, and she whispered words only the void could hear. "The storm is coming again." The Resolute glided through the quiet dark between stars, a lone silver shape cutting across the void. Inside, the crew moved with a rhythm of tension and routine, half curious, half afraid of what the future held. They all knew that keeping the alien princess aboard was dangerous, but none dared question Commander Raylan now. His decisions had saved them before, and no one forgot that. Still, whispers spread through the lower decks. "Why protect her?" they said. "She's the reason the aliens will come for us again." But the commander didn't flinch, didn't waver, his eyes always fixed on the stars ahead. Kayla, meanwhile, was learning what it meant to live among humans. Their laughter startled her at first. Their anger confused her. Their kindness broke her silence. In the mess hall, they invited her to sit, to taste human food, to listen to stories of Earth. She had never seen oceans or mountains, but the way they described them made her heart ache. One mechanic showed her an old photo of his daughter by a blue lake. Kayla touched the image with her fingers, whispering softly, "Your world feels alive," the mechanic smiled. "It is, ma'am, and maybe one day we'll show it to you." But not everyone shared his warmth. Some avoided her completely, muttering prayers when she passed by. They said her glowing eyes brought bad luck, that she could see the soul and twist it. Kayla never responded. She had been called worse by her own people. Rylan noticed her quiet endurance, how she faced cruelty with calm instead of anger. He admired that, more than she could ever know. One evening, as the ship floated near a dying red star, Kayla came to the command bridge. Her presence silenced the crew instantly. She walked to Rylan and bowed her head slightly. "I need to tell you something," she said softly. Rylan nodded for her to continue. "I can sense movement," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Something is following us, hidden in the shadow of this star." The crew exchanged nervous glances. "Are you certain?" Rylan asked. Kayla closed her eyes, her glowing pupils pulsing faintly. "There are minds out there," she said. "They think in silence, but I can feel their intent. They are hunting us." Within seconds, the bridge came alive with motion. "Activate deep scan," Rylan ordered. The radar flickered, and faint blips appeared on the screen, cloaked vessels invisible to normal sensors. Lieutenant Harris gasped. "How did she—" Rylan cut him off. "Doesn't matter, she just saved us." The crew rushed to combat stations, alarms flashing red through the halls outside. The black void shimmered as stealth cruisers decloaked, their alien hulls glinting with cold blue light. It was the Zerian Royal Fleet, Kayla's own people, sent to reclaim what they thought was theirs. "Open a channel," Rylan ordered. The alien admiral appeared on the screen, his armor reflecting crimson light. "Commander Rylan," the alien hissed, "you have something that belongs to the High Council." Rylan crossed his arms, his voice steady. "She is not a thing," he said, "and she belongs to no one." The admiral's eyes narrowed. "You dare defy the Zerian Empire?" Rylan smiled faintly. "I've done worse." Kayla stepped forward, her hands trembling but her voice clear. "Admiral Theros," she said softly, "you were my father's general, weren't you?" The admiral hesitated, his composure cracking for a brief second. "Kayla, you were meant to stay silent," he said. "Your presence among humans dishonors your bloodline." Kayla's glow brightened, her tone firm for the first time. "My bloodline dishonored me long before humanity found me." The bridge fell silent, the admiral's expression hardening into fury. "Then you leave us no choice," he growled. Prepare to be boarded. The communication cut, and the ship shuddered as energy beams pierced the shields. Return fire, Rylan shouted. Helm! Evasive maneuvers. The Resolute twisted through the void, its engines roaring as missiles streaked across the stars. The battle was fierce, chaotic, but the human ship held its ground. Kayla stood frozen, her mind overwhelmed by waves of anger, hatred and fear coming from both sides. Then she gasped, clutching her chest, her eyes flaring bright blue. Stop, she whispered. They're not just attacking, they're afraid. Rylan turned to her, confusion on his face. What do you mean, afraid? Kayla met his gaze, tears shimmering in her eyes. They think I will destroy them, she said. They fear what I am becoming. The ship rocked again, sparks raining from the ceiling. Rylan grabbed her arm, steadying her. Then show them they're wrong, he said firmly. Show them who you really are. Kayla took a deep breath, her voice shaking. I don't know if I can control it. Rylan smiled, his eyes calm and unwavering. You don't have to control it, he said. Just believe it's yours. She closed her eyes and reached outward with her mind. In the emptiness of space, her consciousness expanded like a wave of light. She felt every ship, every heartbeat, every fear, and then she calmed them. The enemy vessels began to slow, their weapons dimming, their anger fading into confusion. On the bridge, the human crew stared in disbelief as the sensors cleared. The alien ships were still there, but they no longer fired. They simply drifted, engines quiet. Kayla opened her eyes, exhausted but alive. Rylan stepped forward and caught her before she fell. The entire bridge was silent, the crew watching their commander hold the alien princess like a fragile star. She saved us, Harris whispered. She saved everyone. Rylan looked down at Kayla and said quietly, No, he said. She reminded them what mercy looks like. Outside, the stars burned quietly again, and in that fragile peace, something changed between humanity and the Forsaken. For the first time, they fought not as enemies, but as two souls bound by courage, trust, and something far greater than war. The battle was over, but the silence that followed felt heavier than war. The Resolute floated in the shadow of a dying sun, its hull scarred and blackened from the fight. Inside, the crew moved like ghosts, repairing damage, whispering prayers, and stealing cautious glances at the alien princess who had saved their lives. No one laughed anymore, no one doubted her now. But respect and fear often walked hand in hand, and both followed Kayla wherever she went. Rylan stood in the command room, staring at the holographic map of nearby sectors. The Xerian fleet had retreated, but their signal beacons pulsed in the distance. They'll come back, Lieutenant Harris said quietly. Rylan nodded, his jaw tight. Yes, but not just for her. He zoomed in on one signal, faint, irregular, and coded differently from the rest. It wasn't from the fleet. It was from deep inside the Xerian capital, a personal transmission. Repeating one phrase in an ancient dialect, it said, The outcast must not return alive. Kayla was in the med bay, sitting alone by the observation window. Her reflection shimmered faintly against the glass, her blue eyes distant and sad. She could feel Rylan's tension even across the ship, his anger, his protectiveness, his quiet worry. Sometimes she wished she could turn her gift off, but emotion always found her. It was both her strength and her curse. When Rylan entered, she didn't turn, but spoke softly. They are afraid again, she said. I can feel it even from here. Rylan stepped beside her, his gaze steady. They should be, he said. Fear means they still think they can control you. Kayla looked up, confusion flickering in her eyes. I never wanted control, she whispered. I only wanted to belong. Rylan didn't answer right away. He simply placed a ration pack on the table and said, Then maybe it's time you decide where you belong. Not them. Before either could say more, the comms alarm blared. The ship's AI spoke in its calm mechanical tone. Unauthorized transmission detected, originating from Deck 7. Rylan's eyes hardened instantly. That's the cargo bay, he said. He and a small team moved fast, rifles ready, boots striking the steel floor. When they reached the cargo bay, they found a figure kneeling beside the main console, one of the human crew, trying to send a message. Lieutenant Marsh, Rylan said coldly. Explain yourself. The young officer froze, panic flashing across his face. I had orders, he stammered, from the council. Earth Command, they want her location. They said she's a liability. Ryland stepped forward, his voice low and sharp. And you thought betraying your own crew was the right thing to do? Marsh swallowed hard, sweat glistening on his brow. They said she's dangerous, sir. They said she'll doom us all. Before Ryland could respond, Kayla appeared at the doorway, silent as a shadow. Her presence filled the room like a whisper through air. Marsh backed away, trembling. Kayla looked at him, not with anger, but with unbearable sadness. You don't understand, she said softly. I never wanted any of this. Her voice carried a strange resonance, soft yet filled with echoing emotion. Marsh dropped to his knees, sobbing without knowing why. Ryland ordered the guards to take him away, then turned to Kayla. You didn't have to come down here, he said. Kayla's eyes glowed faintly. I felt betrayal, she whispered. It hurt, later. In the dim light of the observation deck, Ryland stood alone, watching the starfield stretch endless before him. Kayla joined him quietly, her presence as gentle as the hum of the engines. I don't understand humans, she said softly. You feel deeply, yet you hide it behind orders and pride. Ryland chuckled faintly, his voice tired. And your kind feels everything, but hides it behind silence and law. She tilted her head slightly. Maybe we are both wrong. He looked at her, his expression softening. Or maybe we're both right, he said. But peace never lasted long. The next morning, a coded message reached the Resolute through a hidden frequency. It bore the royal seal of Zarea, Kayla's sister. Princess Velra had spoken. Her words were cold, sharp, and cruel. To the human commander who defies the council, the message began. You have taken something that does not belong to your kind. Return her, or I will turn the entire galaxy against you. Ryland's jaw tightened, but it was Kayla who stepped forward. Her voice calm. Play the rest, she said. The recording continued, and the room fell silent as Velra's final words echoed through the ship. She is not one of you. She is a weapon that cannot be controlled. She will destroy you as she destroyed us. The message ended. Leaving a cold silence behind, the crew shifted uneasily, their eyes moving from Kayla to Ryland. He looked at her, but she didn't look away. Is it true? He asked quietly. Kayla's voice trembled. I don't know, she said. But if I am a weapon, I want to choose what I protect, not what I destroy. Ryland stared at her for a long moment, then finally nodded. Then you'll have your choice, he said. But if Velra wants a war, she'll get one she never imagined. He turned to his officers, his voice steady but burning with determination. Prepare for jump coordinates to the Zyrian border. If they want a meeting, we'll give them one. As the ship engines roared to life, Kayla watched the stars blur into streaks of white, somewhere deep inside. She felt a tremor, a whisper that wasn't her own. Voices from across the galaxy, whispering her name, calling her a traitor, a savior, a mistake, and beneath it all, one thought kept echoing in her mind. If love is rebellion, then let the whole galaxy burn. The Resolute emerged from hyperspace near the border of Zyrian space, its hull glowing faintly from the stress of the jump. Outside, the stars were distant and cold. Their light stretched across the void like frozen rivers. The crew stood ready at their stations, tension thick in the air. They knew they were heading straight into the lion's den. Yet no one questioned the order, because Ryland had never led them wrong, and because Kayla's presence, strange as it was, had saved them once before. Kayla stood on the bridge beside Ryland, her hands folded, her face calm but her eyes glowing brighter than usual. She could feel something in the space ahead. Not just ships or soldiers, but minds. Millions of them, a storm of thoughts and emotions woven together. The council has prepared for us, she whispered. They are afraid, but their fear burns like fire. Ryland didn't look at her. His gaze locked on the navigation screen. Let them burn, he said quietly. We've been through fire before. As the Resolute drifted closer to Zyrian territory, enormous shapes began to appear from the mist of cosmic dust. Warships, hundreds of them, forming a wall of light. Their golden hulls reflected the dying light of a nearby star, creating the illusion of a floating crown, and at the center a massive dreadnought. The sovereign flame, Kayla's breath caught as she saw it. That's my sister's flagship, she said softly. I remember the sound of its engines. They vibrate like thunder. A voice crackled through the comms, cold and sharp. This is Princess Velra of Zyria. Lower your shields and surrender the human vessel. Do this, and I will spare your crew. Ryland leaned forward, his tone like steel. "This is Commander Rylan Voss of the United Human Fleet. You'll have to take us by force." Velra's laughter echoed through the channel, melodic and cruel. "Then you choose destruction. Just like your kind always does." The communication ended, and the sky came alive. Dozens of Zyrian ships opened fire, streams of plasma and energy cutting through the void like molten rivers. The Resolute shook violently, alarms blaring, sparks raining from the ceiling. "Shields down to 60%, shouted Harris. "Return fire," Rylan ordered. Missiles streaked across the darkness, explosions painting the battlefield in flashes of blue and orange light. But the Resolute was outnumbered. Surrounded, pressed from all sides, Kayla's heart pounded. She could feel the pain and fear of every soul around her, human and alien alike. The noise of their emotions tore through her mind like claws. She clutched her head, gasping. Rylan rushed to her side, gripping her shoulders. "Kayla, stay with me," he said. "You're the only one who can stop this." She looked up, tears glowing on her cheeks, her voice breaking. "They won't stop, they can't, they were born to obey." Then she heard another voice. Distant, familiar, cruel. "Kyla," it whispered. "You were born to obey too." Velra's psychic message cut into her thoughts like a blade. "Do you think they love you, sister? You are just another weapon, and soon you will kill them all," Kayla screamed, a sound that shook the air itself. The lights on the bridge flickered. The ship's system surged with energy. Rylan stepped back as a pulse of blue light burst from her body, washing through every circuit, every panel, every living mind aboard in that instant. The Resolute became an extension of her will. She could see the enemy ships not with her eyes, but with her mind. She felt their engines, their weapons, their fear. And then she reached out, not to destroy, but to change. Outside, the Zyrian fleet's weapons faltered, energy beams flickering into nothing. Their targeting systems shut down, their engines stalled. It was as if time itself had paused. Rylan watched through the viewport in stunned silence. "What are you doing?" he asked quietly. Kayla's eyes glowed white now, brighter than stars. "I'm giving them peace," she whispered. "They fight because they don't remember what peace feels like." On the flagship Sovereign Flame, Velra shouted orders, "Reactivate weapons."
"Fire, fire!"
But nothing responded. Her crew fell to their knees, clutching their heads, tears streaming down their faces. They were seeing visions, memories of their children, the faces of the fallen, the warmth of suns they had forgotten. Kayla had reached into their minds and reminded them what they were fighting for. And it wasn't hatred. Rylan stepped closer, his voice soft but trembling with awe. "Kayla, stop, you're killing yourself." Her skin shimmered like liquid light, her form flickering between solid and energy. "I'm not dying," she said, smiling faintly. "I'm finally awake." The glow intensified until the bridge was bathed in blue radiance. Then as suddenly as it began, the light faded, and Kayla collapsed into Rylan's arms, unconscious but breathing. Outside, the battlefield had gone silent. Thousands of Zyrian ships drifted aimlessly, their weapons powered down. No one dared fire again. No one dared move. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy had seen mercy strong enough to stop a war, and it came not from a superweapon or a fleet, but from an outcast princess and a human who refused to see her as broken. Rylan looked down at her sleeping form, whispering, "You just changed everything." Then he looked out at the quiet stars and added softly, "And the galaxy will never forgive you for it." The galaxy had gone quiet, but silence didn't mean peace. It was the silence of fear, the silence before the storm. Word of the battle spread faster than light, carried through channels both official and forbidden. Every empire, every colony, every hidden outpost whispered the same name, Kayla, the outcast princess who stopped a war with her mind. Some called her a miracle, others called her a threat, and the Galactic Council called her a crime. The Resolute was ordered to dock at the Central Citadel, a vast ringed station orbiting the neutral star Epsilon Prime. It was where peace was supposed to live, though everyone knew it was built more on fear than trust. As the ship approached the glowing rings, Rylan stood beside Kayla in the observation deck. She had recovered, though her body still shimmered faintly with light beneath her skin. Her eyes had changed too, deeper, brighter, as if they carried fragments of the stars themselves. "You don't have to go in there," Rylan said quietly. "They won't give you justice." Kayla's lips curved into a faint, tired smile. "I am not going for justice," she whispered. "I'm going for truth." When they entered the council hall, Thousands of delegates from across the galaxy stared in silence. Humans sat at one end, their faces tense. The alien races filled the rest of the chamber. Insectoid rulers, reptilian elders, crystalline beings whose voices sounded like broken glass, and at the highest platform stood Princess Velra, her armor gleaming like molten gold. She looked down at her sister, eyes cold and unblinking. "Kayla of Zirea," she said, her voice echoing, "you stand accused of violating the laws of species sovereignty, of merging forbidden psychic technology with human systems, and of manipulating sentient minds." Kayla's calm didn't waver, though her hands trembled at her sides. "I did not manipulate," she said softly. "I reminded." Velra's expression darkened. "You violated?" she snapped. "You turned warriors into slaves of peace." The hall erupted with noise. Voices shouting in different languages. Ryland stepped forward, slamming his hand on the central console. "She saved lives," he said, "thousands of them, maybe millions. And this is how you thank her." An insectoid delegate hissed. "And who are you to speak, human? Your kind spreads chaos wherever it goes." Ryland met its glowing eyes without flinching. "Maybe," he said, "but we also know how to learn from it." The chamber buzzed with disapproval, yet something in his tone silenced a few. Velra raised a hand and the noise died. "You see," she said, her voice smooth as poison, "this is the danger of humanity. Arrogance disguised as compassion." She turned her gaze to Kayla. "And you, my sister, chose to embrace that arrogance, to betray your own blood." Kayla lifted her chin, her eyes glowing faintly. "I did not betray our people," she said. "I freed them." Velra's voice grew sharp. "By robbing them of their will?" Kayla shook her head slowly. "No, by giving them a choice they were never allowed to have." A hush fell over the hall. Even the counselors, beings who had ruled for centuries, seemed unsure how to respond. Velra's mask cracked for a moment, her anger flaring beneath the surface. "You always believed your gift made you special," she said. "But all it did was curse us." Kayla took a step forward, her voice trembling yet filled with light. "No, sister," she whispered. "What cursed us was our pride." The air rippled with energy. Velra's armor shimmered as her psychic power ignited, golden waves of fury crashing through the hall. The delegates gasped, shields flickered, and the air filled with tension thick enough to break. Ryland moved instantly, standing in front of Kayla. "Enough," he shouted. "You call us arrogant, yet you stand here trying to silence the only one who speaks truth." Velra's gaze burned into him. "You defend her because you are in love with her," she spat. "You think love changes destiny?" Ryland's voice dropped, quiet but firm. "It already has." A sudden silence spread through the hall, the kind that comes when a truth cuts too deep to deny. Kayla stepped beside him, her light flaring softly like dawn. "I didn't come here to fight," she said. "I came to end it." She raised her hands slowly, and a soft glow spread across the council chamber. No one moved, no one spoke. As visions filled their minds, flashes of Earth's destruction, Zirea's cold palaces, children crying, soldiers dying, and then peace not imagined but felt. Real and gentle, the delegates saw it, and for a moment they understood. Then the light faded, and Kayla collapsed once again, her strength drained. Velra stared at her, trembling. "You, what have you done?" she whispered. Ryland lifted Kayla into his arms, his expression unreadable. "She showed you what you refused to see," he said. "That peace isn't submission, it's understanding." He turned to leave, the silence of the hall following him like a shadow. No one dared stop him, not even Velra, because deep down, even she had seen the truth. As the Resolute departed the Citadel, humanity's fate hung uncertain. The Council had not forgiven them, and the galaxy would never forget what had happened that day. But something had changed. An idea had been born. Small and fragile but alive, and ideas, Ryland knew, were harder to kill than any empire. In her quarters, Kayla slept peacefully, her breath soft, her light dim but steady. Ryland sat beside her, watching the stars drift beyond the glass. He whispered quietly, "They'll come for us again." Kayla stirred slightly, her voice a whisper even in dreams. "Let them come," she murmured. Light does not fear the dark outside. The stars shimmered, countless, endless, waiting for the next chapter of a war that had already begun to change into something greater. Not a battle for survival, but for the soul of the galaxy itself. Years passed, and the galaxy changed in ways no council could have planned. The war fleets that once patrolled the borders grew silent. Their guns rusted, their banners faded. Yet the stories of what had happened at Epsilon Prime spread like wildfire through the stars. They whispered of a human commander who defied an empire, and an alien princess who silenced the noise of war with light from her soul. Some called it legend, some called it heresy. But all who heard it remembered. The Resolute had long vanished from official records. Some said the council erased its name. Others said Rylan destroyed it himself to keep them hidden. But travelers along the forgotten trade route spoke of a world hidden deep in the Veil Nebula, a planet without a name, wrapped in clouds of blue dust and golden light there. Humans and aliens lived together, not as conquerors, not as slaves, but as people. They called the world Elysium, and its leaders were two figures the galaxy thought dead. Rylan stood on the balcony of a tower carved from smooth black stone, watching twin suns rise above Elysium's forests. The air shimmered with colors unseen on any other world. Behind him, Kayla walked slowly, her gown light as mist, her eyes glowing softly with the same calm power that had once terrified the stars. Her touch had healed the wounded. Her words had united tribes that had once hunted each other. And yet, despite the peace, her face carried a trace of sadness. Rylan noticed it and turned. His voice low. "You still hear them, don't you?" Kayla nodded faintly. "The galaxy doesn't forget," she said. "It still cries in the dark." Rylan smiled, his expression both tired and gentle. "Let it cry," he said. "We can't silence every storm. But we can be a lighthouse for those lost in it." Kayla looked out at the sky, her gaze distant. "Do you think they will ever forgive us?" she asked. Rylan took her hand, his rough fingers wrapping around her delicate ones. "Forgiveness is for those who can't understand," he said softly. "We never needed it." That night, as the two suns fell behind the horizon, a signal reached Elysium. Faint. Encrypted. Old Rylan recognized it instantly. "It's from Earth," he murmured. "It took years to find us." Kayla touched the console, her energy translating the static into voice. "Commander Voss," the message said, "you were right. They fear her because she gives them hope. We are ready to listen." Rylan looked at Kayla, a smile slowly spreading across his face. "They're changing," he said. "Just like you said they would." Kayla's eyes glimmered. "No," she whispered. "Just like we said they could." But peace never came without shadow in the farthest edges of the galaxy. Princess Velra still ruled, her empire cracked and fading. She sat alone in her throne room, surrounded by silence and memory. Her once golden armor was dull, her eyes dim with regret. On the table before her lay a small crystalline sphere, flickering with blue light. Kayla's last psychic imprint. Velra stared into it, and for the first time her voice broke. "Sister," she whispered, "you were right. But I was too proud to see it." She closed her eyes and let the sphere's light wash over her, and though no one saw it, a single tear fell, a tear that would change even her. Back on Elysium, children of both species played in the crystal gardens, their laughter echoing through the valley. They didn't know the old wars, they didn't understand the word enemy. They only knew stories at night around great fires. Elders told them the tale of the Outcast Princess and the human warrior, how they defied the stars, how they made peace from fear, and how love, and not the kind sung in songs, but the quiet, stubborn kind that survives the impossible, had rewritten the galaxy. Kayla sometimes walked among those children in disguise, her hood pulled low, her light dimmed. She would listen as they argued about whether the story was real. One small girl, her skin pale blue and her eyes brown like earth soil, said, "My mother says it's true that the Outcast Princess still watches over us." Kayla smiled, a single tear glinting in the glow of the fire. "Your mother is very wise," she said softly. Rylan watched her from afar, his heart heavy and full all at once. He knew that someday their story would fade into myth, and that was how it should be. Heroes were never meant to be worshipped, only remembered long enough to inspire the next generation. When Kayla returned to the tower that night, she found him looking at the stars again. "Still awake?" she asked. He nodded. "I was just wondering if the galaxy is finally sleeping peacefully." She smiled faintly. "Not yet, but it dreams better now." They stood together in silence, the wind whispering through the open balcony below them. The lights of Elysium flickered like stars fallen to earth. Above them, the real stars burned on, vast and eternal, and in that moment, Rylan realized that legends never end. They simply become constellations, guiding those who come after. As dawn broke over the twin suns, Kayla closed her eyes. Her voice drifted through the golden air like a memory carried on wind. "They called me an outcast," she whispered. "But all I ever wanted was a place where no one had to be." Rylan placed a hand over hers and whispered back, "You found it, and so the legend lived on, not written in books, but in the hearts of those who believed that one act of compassion, one impossible choice, could change the course of a galaxy forever."